Do you guys remember the Boston Tea Party? In which lots of angry patriot colonials dressed up as Native Americans and stormed British ships and tossed a lot of tea in the Boston Harbor. Yeah, that Boston Tea Party. Wish I could have been there. Can't believe I missed it by several hundred years. Yeah, well, guess what? We kind of saw almost a little bit of a reenactment in that recently in American news, you know, one group of people posing almost as another group of people and the other group of people catching all the blame. What do you think of my analogy? Okay, so let's explain a little bit about this whole situation since you're probably thoroughly confused now.
So last Friday, Hamline Elementary School kind of did a little mistake, and they...
Where's Hamline Elementary School?
Chicago, so
Oh, okay.
So last week in Chicago, at Hamline Elementary School, they made a little mistake, and they filmed it so people could see their mistake.
As everyone does these days. Don't you love that?
Yes.
You gotta love TikTok. Except unless you're Donald Trump, then you don't love TikTok. We know he does though because he brought it back.
So on last Friday, Secret Service went to Hamline Elementary School in Chicago to do an investigation on an unnamed school official about the TikTok ban. They went to Hamline school leaders and say, "Wait, we're gonna do a little investigation. We're gonna investigate. We're here." Give them their cards, and it said Department of Homeland Security, and they thought, oh, it's ICE because Homeland Security has Secret Service and ICE underneath them. So they thought, oh, it's ICE. They're going to take our kids away, and they went on the news Saturday, I think Friday, saying that.
Wait, hold up.
Yes.
So the school goes, it's ICE.
Yes.
Immediately assumes they're taking the children from our school away, which implies that the school knew that they had lots of illegal immigrant children enrolled in their school.
I think to me, like, if you're like, a lot of people are saying that some people are going to use ICE to scare their kids, which is not right. If you're here illegally, you should prepare for ICE coming or prepare for any legal repercussions. If you're not here legally, you shouldn't be worried about that.
They're fear mongering because they want to do anything to make President Trump's administration look bad. And so they're basically turning ICE into the boogeyman. Like he's gonna come and he's gonna snatch you and your children and your grandma and your grandpa. You know, it's a little bit ridiculous. Right after President Trump won the election, I actually was in class at my college, which is a conservative college, generally speaking. I would say most people are rather right-leaning, but some of my classmates were talking, and one of them was Hispanic, and actually no, none of them were Hispanic. They were all white. It's always, you guys, it's always the white people who were like, oh my goodness, I can't believe everyone's so racist. Anyway, my white friends were talking about how, which by the way, for reference, I am half Hispanic, and my dad's father is an alien. He's not a naturalized citizen, but anyway, we'll talk about that in a minute. So I come into class and they're all like, oh, talking in hushed tones. And I ask, yeah, so President Trump won. How about that, huh? And they look at me like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, why? I'm like, you must be so scared. And I was like, excuse me? Like, I can't imagine how scared you are, you know, just like worrying about your family members and friends. Like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, girl, none of my family members or friends are here illegally, so I'm not worried about anything. Number one, why would you assume that because I'm Hispanic, I have like illegal family members? That's crazy. Number two, I think that a lot of people just assume that if you're not white, suddenly you're under attack in the Trump administration, which is not accurate, okay? Donald Trump and Elon Musk, despite what the media and TikTok may have been telling you recently, are not Nazis, I think. Hopefully I don't live to eat those words. Anyway, you were saying.
I was saying, like, instilling fear on children that, like, you're Hispanic, and you're here, like, if you're Hispanic or any other race, and saying, like, you're gonna get deported because you're not white, that's just so wrong.
It really is.
And like, manipulation that could definitely hurt a child and not be able to enjoy things in life. And also, like, people, I've noticed on TikTok that, like, even, like, Hispanic conservatives say, like, I'm glad that Trump won. So I hope you get deported because you voted for him. You should be the first one to go. That's racist, and you're kind of showing your true colors. Every person that's Hispanic and other ethnicities that's not white getting deported is so wrong and so blatantly racist.
And can we just clarify this, that I don't think President Trump has an issue with anyone because they're not white. He has an issue with people who are here illegally in our country. Okay, those are two very different things. You could be Russian and you could have blonde hair and blue eyes and be here illegally, and you are one of the illegal immigrants that they're looking to deport, okay? It's just that it's Hispanic countries that happen to border our country, and that makes it most easy for those people to get here illegally. And so it's not the fact that they're Mexican. I don't think President Trump is a racist. I think he just doesn't like a bunch of criminals being here in our country, and that's honestly understandable.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure like not every illegal immigrant is a criminal, but like it's not fair when so many Americans are still struggling today, like can't afford rent, can't afford groceries, and when they're getting paid, like illegal immigrants getting paid to get money and get a prepaid cell phone, and a lot of people were like can't afford those things. It's not fair for Americans being set on the back burner while illegal immigrants get all these things that they probably need.
Yeah, and this is kind of a tricky differentiation to make, because we say not all illegal immigrants are criminals, but in fact, the fact that they are an illegal immigrant makes them a criminal. Because, guys, what is the definition of a criminal? It's someone who breaks the law, okay? There are immigration laws that say you can't come to our country illegally. So if you break those laws, then you are, by definition, a criminal. Now, that does not mean you are a violent criminal. Those are two very different things. So every illegal immigrant is, in fact, a criminal because they are illegal. They came here and they're staying here illegally. That's against the law. You're breaking the law, you're a criminal. However, there's a huge difference between that and a violent criminal, which is someone who poses an active threat to other law-abiding Americans and non-law-abiding Americans. Think about Lake and Riley. You know, the men who killed her, they were illegal immigrants, yes.
It was only one man.
Oh, it was only one guy?
Only one guy,
awkward.
Yeah.
The man who killed Lake and Riley, for example, was a violent criminal. But I'm pretty sure we've all met or know an illegal immigrant who is not a violent criminal. But unfortunately, they are in violation of the law, and that does technically make them a criminal.
So one of my cousins who married a wonderful one who's from Cambodia, she came to the U.S. in 2015, and only a couple years later, she got her U.S. citizenship. It take forever, and it's not fair for people who are immigrating to the U.S. and going through the process. It does take a long time, and they do want to become American citizenship. So it's not fair for them who have to go through this very long process to become a American citizen, while an illegal immigrant can cross the Mexico-Texas border and say, I'm a citizen, give me what things I want.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, not only is it not fair to people who go through the effort of immigrating legally, it's kind of just like disrespectful. You know, it's kind of, we've almost created this situation where we have encouraged illegal migrants because we treat them so well. It's really very interesting. It's like if you make prison a 5-star hotel, you're not going to be surprised when everybody starts breaking the law so that they can go live in this free, complimentary 5-star hotel. And honestly, I do feel bad for a lot of people who came here illegally, because I definitely think a lot of people come here to have a better life. In fact, I would say that the majority of people who come here illegally are not violent criminals, and they don't have bad intentions. However, especially under the Biden administration, where there was so much leniency, and they were putting many immigrants up in 5-star hotels and things like that, it encouraged more people to come here illegally. So I do think it's unfair that our previous administration essentially encouraged people to come here illegally, and then the current administration is cracking down on them. That is a little bit misleading, I would say.
Yes, and also the border is like what Isa said, the border is very dangerous. I mean, the environment, the weather is very hot, and a lot of these people use cartels to help them to help them move away because they don't have a lot of money in the cartel. The only way to pay the cartel is use their children or themselves, and they do get violently assaulted every day. An ICE patrol said that they found, for a little girl, found so much DNA that wasn't hers inside of her, which is very heartbreaking, devastating. Farmers who live near the border can't really go out or go with their children anymore because they find so many dead bodies and so many people who do want to harm them and their children, and they've been assaulted, their property's been damaged. So like, we do need a border, and we do need more laws to help protect them. Like, if you do want to come to the US, to come through it legally, and there are ways, but going across the border is dangerous, not only for illegal immigrants, but also people who are living near the border.
And that brings up another great point, which is that we're not just keeping people from immigrating illegally to be mean. It's dangerous for them, because if you are here illegally, there is no documentation that you exist. If you go missing, how is anyone gonna know? How are they going to look for you? You don't exist here. There's no paper trail saying, yes, this person has a social security card and they indeed do exist. It's dangerous. They're more likely to be exploited because they don't have legal documentation to work here in the United States. They're more likely to be exploited. Actually, you guys, story time. My brother lived in Texas for about 6 years, and he loved it down there. And in fact, Texas is like a cult. Everyone who's ever lived in Texas is obsessed with Texas and won't shut up about it. And like, especially Buc-ee's. Let me show you my co-host's laptop, guys. Yes, anyway, everyone is obsessed. I'm convinced Texas is a cult, but I kind of would move there. Texas is great. So, I kind of understand the hype. Anyway, sidetrack. My brother worked as a firefighter down there. He lived out in the boonies, just way far out in the middle of nowhere, outside of Austin, a couple hours outside of Austin. And so he's driving home one morning, it's like 2 a.m., okay, just along this long country road, and it's just like full of trees and whatever on both sides because he lives in like the lush part of Texas. And suddenly these 3 Hispanic men run out of the side of the road, like run out of the trees, and they run into the road and they're waving him down. And my brother is always looking for a story, so he stops and he lets them into his car, okay? And they are freaking out. These men are so scared, but they don't speak a lick of English, and my brother doesn't speak any Spanish because we're no Sabo kids, what can we say? And I will never forgive my dad for not raising me to be bilingual. Anyway, so my brother doesn't speak Spanish. These men don't speak any English, but they are freaked out. They're terrified. And so my brother drives them to the nearest police station. And they find a translator there. And essentially, this is what they tell my brother that these men are saying. They came over illegally, and they saw an ad in a newspaper for help wanted on this farm or ranch. And so they go to this ranch for work, and it's way out in the middle of nowhere, right? The guy like drives them out there, the ranch owner. He enslaves them, okay? He locks them up at night. He like chains them inside of his barn. He makes them work, and he doesn't pay them, and he won't let them out. Like, he won't let them go, and they're in the middle of nowhere, and they don't know where they are or how to get help. And so the fact that they ran away and were able to get away, and that my brother stopped and helped them, he doesn't know what happened with the rest of the story because, you know, he left them there at the police station and he never followed up. But crazy stuff like that happens, you guys. And that is part of the reason why illegal immigration, it's not just, it's hard on our social welfare systems and things like that, which it is, but also it's very dangerous for the illegal migrants themselves.
Yes.
Sorry, that was my story time.
So, there was a video about what they did on Hamline Elementary School, and they said like they were very confident that it was ICE, not Secret Service.
Showed up at Hamline Elementary School. School staff followed CPS established protocols. They kept ICE agents outside of the school and contacted CPS's Law Department and CPS's Office of Safety and Security for further guidance. The ICE agents were not allowed into the school and were not permitted to speak to any students or staff members. Here is the bottom line. Our students and staff are safe. Our protocols were followed. We are very thankful for our school staff for following established district protocol. We want to remind families and staff that CPS will continue to protect our students and their families in alignment with the Illinois Trust Act.
So ICE later declared, we were never there, it wasn't us. And then Secret Service said, it was us. We actually gave them cards to tell us who we were, what we were doing, and they just went with it. So, the Illinois governor doubled down and literally still believed it was ICE, but the tweet, you know, like in X, if they make a mistake, there's always a community guideline that says, hey, this is what happened. And so, this is what he said. After a week of Republicans sowing fear and chaos, the first reports of raids in Chicago are at an elementary school. Targeting children and separating families is cruel and un-American. And then the community guideline says, U.S. Secret Service was investigating a threat that led them to a school. Like I said, it was about a TikTok ban. Really did go further in that by an unnamed unofficial school official. Even the mayor of Chicago was saying that there's information why what actually happened. There's good information.
And it's kind of like they use the version of the story that best fits their narrative and the agenda they want to push. And I mean, I'm a big believer that most people are well-intentioned. Most. But,
yes.
I mean, you need to make sure that the stuff that you're sharing is accurate. And even if that doesn't fit your personal bias, even if it's in favor of your opposition's side, you need to be honest with yourself. We live in a world where no one's honest with themselves, and it is so harmful, not only to you as an individual with your personal growth, but it's killing our society. Mm-hmm. Look for the truth, not for something that's going to prove your preconceived notions were right.
Yes. And like, I understand that you're probably scared. Like, a lot of the families are scared about what's going to happen with ICE, because ICE is in New York, it's in Chicago, and maybe I think parts of Colorado. But like, I understand, like, even some of the Chicago civilians are getting tired of this. Like, a lady said, like, she voted for Democrat, she voted for Trump because she was getting tired of illegal immigrants going through her resident and targeting them. And like, recently, a few months ago, a few illegal immigrants attacked a man on a train. And then also, a former police chief, Tom Winslow, stated that a lot of criminal enterprises are hiring illegal immigrants to commit crimes because a lot of them went to malls and targeted specific stores to steal.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think it's important to remember that Americans commit lots of crimes too. You know what I mean?
That's
and
true.
So it's not necessarily that all illegal immigrants are out here committing these terrible crimes, but I mean, there are some that are committing crimes for sure. And the fact that you would blatantly flout law to come to this country kind of shows an initial disrespect and disregard for the laws of our country already. But yeah, I think it's important just to keep in mind that even though there are isolated circumstances of immigrants, you know, being criminals, being violent and participating in violent crimes and things like that, I just don't know if there's enough of a pattern to kind of be like, this is the reason we have to deport them because they are all violent criminals. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, take it with a grain of salt. Because lots of men get attacked on metros by Americans, and we're not seeing that in the news. It's just because this fits the MAGA narrative of we need to deport them. So they're going to show us the information that supports their agenda.
But like I said, it's not like Chicago, but New York, they're praising ICE raids because like they can, like, there's a lot of hotels. There's like, sometimes there's like there's videos of like illegal immigrants like overtaking police stations or hotels, and they can't walk without having illegal immigrants on the streets when they're walking to work or going to school or going home. It's just not like, it's really not a good environment for both the Americans and illegal citizens, because I know like it gets cold in New York, it gets cold in Chicago, and there are a lot of people like why is Mayor Johnson And the governor of Illinois saying these things. Well, Chicago is a sanctuary city, and recently Chicago, Boston, and New York, they have been recently called to a hearing to tell them about why they made a sanctuary city and what's the reason they did it and how is it affecting their towns, because it is affecting their towns in a negative way. And they do, like, the Congress wants to hear about it and what they're going to do afterwards, after the raids, and what they're going to tell their people or their citizens what's going on. Over the raids, even like a lot of people are like interested. Dr. Phil was in Chicago interviewing ICE and illegal immigrants, what they're doing, and it's actually pretty interesting because like he also, like, before the election, he went down to the border and told about drugs, also about the border. Drugs were being carteled or smuggled to the border, and a lot of people have been, like, there's some people who have died. There's some college students who have died of laced cocaine with fentanyl, which is very dangerous. And but still, like, Pfizer, the governor of Illinois, is still slammed him on the birthright citizenship, which is not fair. So the JB Pfizer is slamming Trump on pausing or halting the citizenship birthright for illegal immigrants, which I understand why Trump's doing it, because if you were still like a legal citizen of a different country, you become a citizen of that country, not the country you're born in.
I agree. And everyone always complains about splitting up families. Well, birthright citizenship is why families get split up. So if you end birthright citizenship, you end the splitting up of families, quite honestly. And I mean, like, splitting up because they're being deported, guys. I don't mean, like, no more men will ever leave their wives. I'm sure you knew that, but I just wanted to put that out there as a disclaimer. But, that's why families are split up, because people come here illegally. Maybe they're citizens of Venezuela, and honestly, don't blame them for trying to leave Venezuela, okay? I get it. I would try and leave too. But they're here illegally, and they have a baby on American soil. Oh no, the 1-year-old is an American now when they're getting deported. So guess we're gonna keep your baby, but we're sending you back to Venezuela. That's exactly why families get split up. So if we end these crazy birthright citizenship shenanigans, then oh my goodness, wow, the whole family can get deported together and live happily ever after in a different place. Or maybe they will be able to immigrate legally to America. But anyway, I think it makes great sense, quite honestly, to end birthright citizenship. Because if you're on vacation in Italy and you have your baby, it's not like, oh my gosh, I guess they're an Italian now. No, like, that's crazy. They're an American. If you're an American and you had your baby in Italy, they're not just automatically an Italian citizen. It's not the way it works anywhere else.
No, especially there's like a lot of U.S. soldiers who do give birth to their children on foreign ground. I mean, I know I had a classmate back in high school. He was born in Germany, so like he didn't automatically become a German citizenship. He was still an American citizen because his parents were soldiers. So it doesn't make any sense why people are upset with this. I can see why, because they're saying that it's not fair for a person who was born in U.S. soil not to be a citizen, but it doesn't work. It doesn't make sense, because if you are a citizen of a different country, your parents are, it would make sense for them to become a citizen of the country of their parents.
It really does. And I just have one more thing. I always say that. I just have one more thing, and then I say like 12 more things. But really, I just have one more thing that I want to say on the whole question of immigration, especially under the Trump administration. I think that MAGA is phrasing it wrong, because when people bring up, oh, but you're deporting all these people, and it's immoral, and we should help them, and all this stuff, that people on the left side of the political aisle tend to bring up, the MAGA response is kind of be like, no, they're violent criminals, and we need to deport them because America, and so, not that they shot the reporter, that is not what I'm implying, everyone, just, guns, they're very American, but I really think that is the wrong way to be looking at it, because quite honestly, this is crazy. This might be the only time I say this in my life, but I think the Democrats are right. I think that the moral thing to do is to help these people. They are fleeing war-torn and destitute countries where they're not safe, where there is no promise of an economic future. And yes, the moral thing would be to help them. And it's really quite ironic and a little unsettling to me that the entire Republican Party can claim to be so rooted in Judeo-Christian values, and yet sit there and say that no, the moral thing to do is to deport them all. Because quite honestly, I would say that the ethical choice is to help them. However, and this is a big however, because I don't think illegal immigrants should be allowed to stay here, at least not with the system we currently have, or rather the lack thereof. Because it's kind of like, I used to always give money to people I saw on the streets. But guys, I'm a broke college kid. Right now I'm working at an unpaid internship, and I realized very quickly that there are simply too many of them, and I simply don't have the funds. I don't have the money. I wish I did. I really wish that I could help all of them, but I can't. I simply feasibly can't. And you never know if they're going to be dangerous. I'm not saying that they're all dangerous. In fact, most of them probably aren't. But you never know if one of them is going to be, and so you don't want to risk it. And I think that most people can identify with that. You have probably walked down the street and you've seen homeless people, and you're probably not like, oh my goodness, you are a violent criminal. No, you probably want to help them, but you just can't, because you can't help all of them, and you don't know if they're going to be dangerous. And that's kind of what the situation is, I think, with illegal migrants in this country. That we simply, as a country, we're a country, not a charity. And we cannot afford, quite honestly, to continue to support all these illegal immigrants on our social welfare systems. We just can't do it. But I wish we could. We simply can't. And so, yes, I think the correct choice is to deport all of these people. Not because they're all violent criminals, but because we do have to put the American people first. Because the people in office swore to protect American citizens and the American government system, not to protect these foreign individuals. However, I do think it's kind of disappointing and hypocritical when these people who espouse themselves to be such firm believers in Christianity and the things that Jesus that Jesus Christ taught in the Bible, when they stand there and say that no, there's no moral obligation to help these people who are fleeing terrible circumstances. So I hope that made sense. That's my hot take, everybody.
Yeah, I do agree. It's I understand that there's some of these, or most of these, are trying to flee from horrible areas from different countries. I mean, I think there should be ways to help them, but we did come here illegally, and there should be ways, and we should be helpful but firm that you came here legally, you need to go back, or find ways to help them. If they want to become a citizen, if they are interested in becoming a citizen, willing to learn, willing to take anything that could help them, there are ways. I mean, there's green cards.
Ultimately, the government's job is to look out for Americans first. God bless America.